Hey everyone, Jeff Freeman here with the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. And over in the co-host here is the very lovely and talented Gretchen Cornwall. Gretchen, hey, thank you so much for being my co-host today.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here today. Looking
Oh,
forward to talking to Christopher and Corian and yourself. And
I tell
looking
you
forward.
what, this is one of those shows that I joke about sometimes because I get the opportunity to just kind of kick back. I'll get everything started. I get to kind of kick back and let three wonderful, very talented researchers just take the show and let's go because it's Christopher Morford and Corian Mole. Corian is running just a little bit late, so we're going to start off with Christopher Morford. And you guys know these two gentlemen from the Curse of Oak Island. They've been on the Curse of Oak Island. They have given their research. They've been all over the place gathering information that is pertains to Oak Island in many ways. And so we're going to get to hear all about that. Now, Christopher, I'm going to warn you, Christopher is at work. We're going to talk about a little bit about his work and where he is also. But I tell you, I'm really looking forward to this. How about you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so folks, let's get rolling with it. We're going to come back here in just a moment. We'll have Christopher Morford and Corian Mole with us here in just a couple moments, and let's get started. All right.
This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island, and I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
Yes, it is a top pocket find, mate, for sure. And we have Christopher Morford is with us. And I tell you what, Christopher, we may have a little bit of background noise, but that's okay. Welcome and thank you for coming on the show today.
So happy to be here. I'm broadcasting live from the Convent of Cristo in Tomar, Portugal. This is the official Knights Templar pizza kitchen. You rarely get to see this on the tour, but I'm showing you this for the first time.
I tell you what, that's got to be the authentic pizza, correct? I mean,
yes, it's centuries old. You probably wouldn't want to eat it by now, but happy to be here. I love the new intro. What a very cool, Jeff.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I tell you what,
Hi, Christopher. Hi.
I'm so glad to have you both on. Actually, Gretchen, I know the last time we did this with you guys, we had the very lovely Alessandra Nadavari with us. And she is fantastic. And we love having her on as a co host or just a guest. She's very fun. But tonight, or today, I should say, we have Gretchen. And thank you so much again, Gretchen. Christopher, I know that, let's talk a little bit about as we wait for Corian to show up. We got a lot to speak with you about also, but I wanted to find out, you are a new entrepreneur of a new place here, and I believe it's called Crave Station. Is that right?
Oh, thank you for mentioning that. That's very nice of you. Yes, we have a new restaurant here on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, the curse of Hilton Head Island, that is. And so, yes, we're um, been open about 4 months now, and things are going well. Yeah, it's a new venture for us. We have been in the restaurant industry before, but it's the first time we took on something this size, and it's quite an undertaking, but
Love
we're happy
the
we're here.
your decorations. Your decorations, your tables, the bright red. It's so fun.
Oh, thank
And
you.
eye-catching, great sense of humor. But it looks fantastic. You've been sharing photos on Facebook. It looks fantastic, and that's Crave, Crave
Yes.
station. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. South Carolina.
Oh, there
There
it is.
it is.
There's the logo.
Yes, fantastic.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yes.
So,
Thanks so
how do
much.
you find time as here you take a moment out of your busy day to sit down with us and talk a little bit about the Knights Templar in Portugal and all of that? How do you find time to do any research when you're so busy with taking care of a restaurant and a family?
Sleep is really overrated. You just don't need it.
Oh, yeah, you could just toss it.
So, yeah, the past 5 years or so, I haven't slept a minute. So, no.
Well, you have a very lovely family, and I know that being friends on Facebook as we are, I get to see all the adventures of your daughter. It's amazing, and she's such a darling. So, but I thank you very much for that. We kind of get an idea, a little bit of a look into the life and times of the Morford family. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, she's quite a doll. She sees me on the show once in a while. And it's Daddy on TV, and say,
Daddy's
great,
favorite.
great. Can we just switch it to Barbie now? uh, enough of that.
Yeah, yeah. She'll care more when she gets a little older. Yeah. Daddy's on
Yeah.
TV. Okay, I'm done with that. All right, time for
Yeah.
something else. Well, I know that you guys, you and Corian have presented some very interesting information on Oak Island, pertaining to Oak Island, over the past seasons. I know that I think it was like season 8, we got to see a little bit of information about Versailles. And then, in season 9, I don't know, you guys, I know you're still working on new stuff, and hopefully at some point here, we'll be able to hear maybe a little bit about that. I know that you have to keep a lid on much of the new research because of NDA and how it may pertain to Oak Island if that is going to be presented. But the last season, Corian did a lot of stuff over in Portugal, and he's been jetting around the country. Are you pretty much involved in all of this going on as well on the behind the scenes, or?
Yeah, he does keep me abreast of those trips.
Mhm.
I was unable to go. Of course, he's much closer to the area. It's much easier for him to get around. He could probably ride his bicycle over there if he wanted.
You two
No.
have done so much. You've both done so much. Are you at some point going to write a book together?
Ah,
You have got, and of course, he's not here to share his input on this, but might we see a book about this at some point?
We've certainly got enough material, I think.
You
Um,
do.
the problem is, well, yeah,
When
and it's
when would you?
come up in discussions. You know, um, the thing is when you probably have experienced this, Gretchen, being an author. uh, you start to sit down and write something, and in the meantime, you're still following other leads, and you get so excited about the new stuff. And it's so
Yeah.
hard to go back and write about the old stuff.
It's challenging, and a new discovery can completely turn you in a different direction,
Right,
and you're
right.
having to drop everything to go do something else. So it is challenging. And you have a family now. You have a restaurant. You're still researching with Corian. That's challenging. That's a lot of work. Um, I don't know how you do it. I take my Templar fulfillment off to you.
That's right, and congratulations, Gretchen, for your
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
initiation there. It's quite exciting. Yeah.
I had put that off for a long time, waiting for the right moment for myself, and was invited. So I appreciated that. And amazing individuals within the order of intelligent people, quite a few ex-military, and so devoted to the memory of the Templars and keeping that momentum of knowledge going forward into the future, to be a strong link in a chain, to find out as much as one can individually and as a group. But it's the time was right. Yeah. Thank you.
It's fantastic. We don't really have anything quite like that, but in masonry we have a couple of degrees, chivalry degrees, and I was lucky enough to go through those. But they're just kind of an honorary, a tip of the hat to the
Yes.
to the brother Templars. There's no
Yes.
claim of any pedigree there, you know.
Yes.
It's just a way to honor them.
This order does not claim to go all the way back, but Napoleon did give them his seal of approval, so they have strong ties to France. I do like that photo of you, and
Where'd you
that's
get that?
wonderful. That's wonderful, wonderful photo. And you have a wonderful library of fantastic library. So,
Oh,
yes.
thank you. Took a while to build that up.
Yes.
Makes moving a pain in the butt.
Well, you won't have to for a while.
Yeah. Well, we have that was Deidre White, and I'm sure you know who Deidre is, and she made that comment there about you need to title each chapter with a good pun, though. Yeah. You are known for your very good puns, that's for sure.
Love Deidre. She's great.
She's lovely.
And Dustin, yeah.
So, is there any of the new research that you're doing that you can talk about? Is there any of that you can take us down that road a little bit, or at least what it might be? I know. I was.
We're
I was
probably
crazy.
so distracted at the moment.
The new stuff. I think we're going to mostly focus on Portugal for the moment. I don't know what I could possibly bring up.
Yeah, obviously, I know you're
NDA.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are you still working on the Poussin painting? Have you discovered anything new about it? Or is that just on a shelf for the moment, the Poussin?
That painting was very important to me. I spent such a long time just staring at it and trying to figure that thing out, decades probably. And maybe a couple of months ago, something struck me about it that I just, of all the times I looked at it, I had not noticed. And
really?
It seemed so simple and straightforward. And I kind of followed that lead, and luckily it panned out quite nicely. That led
wow.
Opened a lot of other doors.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
And that will be a big part of the new research. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. And I know that's so neat how, this is something of working with, talking with you and with Corian in the past, especially about paintings such as the Shepherds of Arcadia. The fact that there is so much encoded into that painting or any other works that have been done by Sir Francis Bacon. And again, this is where Jake Roberts and John Edwards come into play, with their research and being able to look at certain paintings and drawings and start picking out, oh, look at that, look at this, oh, there's all these clues everywhere. And you do that with the paintings as well, and that's fascinating. I mean, it's and now you said you've stared at this thing for so so many hours, and you just saw something new, and that's miraculous.
Yeah, it was a turning point.
Mhm.
Well, there's something I could talk about. That was kind of new for me anyway. Maybe someone else has heard this as well. But I caught a blurb, just a hint of something that Poussin was. Well, he was probably a member of several different secret orders, but one in particular where the members would take on code names, and all of the names were of archangels. And they didn't mention which one Poussin might be,
Hmm.
but the more I thought about it and read on it, we know Poussin called himself the Keeper of Secrets. And we also know that one anagram of Et in Arcadia Ego is Begone, I conceal the secrets of God.
Really?
So I looked up some of the archangels and came upon Raziel, Razeiel, I believe. And there are two books out there, the Book of Raziel and the Sefer HaRaziel. And if you look into him, uh, he is known as the Keeper of Secrets.
Oh,
And his
clever.
book, his book is called The Secrets of God. So that's quite a tie-in there. And
Wow.
yeah, it's a perfect match, there. So if he was in that kind of organization, I'm guessing that's who he was. So he called himself that, and that's what they call the angel.
Wow. That's
Well
fascinating.
done. Well done.
That's one of the things about it. I think that, and I've heard Jake mention this before, that, you know, you study something like this, over and over and over again. You think you've got all the pieces picked out of it, and then you find out later you do not. In fact, that there's something else in there that you've missed and completely overlooked, or different eyes take a look at it, and all of a sudden somebody else picks out something. I mean, I did that when I was on with Jake. We were looking at a map that he was the Champlain map, I believe it was, and I said, "Oh, well, what about this right here?" And he was like, we hadn't seen that, so it's, and here my untrained eyes, I mean, I was like, you know, I was
Yeah.
I kind of go, "Ooh, I found something. That's great," but, but like you said, you think you've got all the answers picked out of something, and then you find out later that there's probably more you're still missing. Um,
Yeah.
that's incredible. So are there other paintings that you've been looking at as well, or
Yes.
cool? Yes. All right. I never know. And again, always, that, if I delve into an area where you can't talk about it, yes, that's the answer I expect. Yes or no. Okay. Um, I never want to put you on the spot. I hate doing that. I know, but I never
But you're
know what.
right. You really got to keep an open mind about things. And one of my favorite quotes is from the physicist Richard Feynman. And you think a guy like him, one of the smartest people ever born, uh, would have the answers, And he says, "You're only ever temporarily right until new evidence comes along."
Yeah.
And
Right.
you got to think it that way. You got to keep an open mind. This makes
Mhm.
sense for now, but who knows what's down the road that's going to change the whole picture.
Yep.
So I never go out there and say, this is the end all and be all, this is the absolute truth here. This is what I've got for now.
Right.
So
Right.
we're going to keep searching.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I know Gretchen has mentioned that to me before too. As a matter of fact, there's been several of the authors that have been on the show here have mentioned that same thing. That they're working on something, and And now, and then maybe they put that book out and it's out and it's published. And then all of a sudden now you've come across new information that may either enhance it, add to it, or maybe change it even a little bit because you found something new that, I mean, that's got to be fun and frustrating all at the same time, I would think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to throw out all this stuff. Corian, one of his favorite poses. Sometimes you got to kill your darlings, and so yeah, you got to throw them away. And as much as it hurts, like, but I
Yeah.
worked so hard on this, but it's not true. So
Yep. Off we go for a new, yeah. I mean, Gretchen, I'm sure you've come across that before as well, right?
Yes, I've had dead ends. I've also come to points where the line of research suddenly just took off. In fact, I actually ended up putting out a revised edition of my first book because I thought that an additional chapter needed to be added.
Hmm.
And the authors will do that, the first edition, second edition, and you do have to put significant changes in there in order to legally do that. But when it warrants it, you just got to do it. And so the flip side can happen too. But this might be here's a completely different subject for you. Chris, what are your thoughts on Nolan Cross? Do you have a sense yourself as to its age? You and Corian have done so much work that keys into the medieval realm, but also, of course, the later centuries of the Sun King and Louis XIV, Versailles. But what do you think about the age of Nolan's Cross and its relationship to the swamp?
That's a tough question,
Unless new
but,
research is going to be.
Exactly, unless you're, yeah.
No.
No, it's not a trick question. I'm just genuinely asking you what you think about the structure.
I think it's older than the 1600s. I think it could go back to medieval times. I believe many of the boulders have been moved and perhaps checked under. I mean,
Yeah.
who wouldn't? I mean,
Right.
if you believe it's
Yeah.
a giant cross and it's on your property, why wouldn't you take a look underneath each
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
one? So, but where they sit now is what we have to work with, and all we can do is maybe guess the original. I don't think they're too far off from where they were. They are quite large, and you wouldn't move them, say, a half a mile just to look underneath one. So,
Right.
True.
Not too far off, I think, from where they were. I do believe that it's an intentional formation. I do believe it's quite old.
Okay.
And I think there's still quite a lot to learn from them. And,
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah.
was one of the things that I talked about too, is the fact that, the fact that it's simply there in the first place is miraculous, because no one's going to go through that extensive effort, especially like you said, 1600s or prior to that.
Yeah.
No one's going to go through all that effort just so they could say, hey, look what we made. We made a cross. Okay, what's next? What are we going to do now?
not like building a snowman.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're going to do it for something that grand of scale. You're going to do it for a particular reason, and that reason is important to you.
Yeah.
Or maybe important to those who may come after you.
I agree.
It's
not quite Stonehenge, but it is
right.
It's a large undertaking.
It is a megalith.
Yeah.
I think didn't they find that the headstone was brought to the island? It was not indigenous to the island, so that's a lot of effort. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that correctly. I might be wrong, but I think they found it was imported from the mainland. But
I recall that as well.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering what you thought about that. I'm sure you've spent a good bit of time thinking about it, experimenting with it, musing, and perhaps you had some interesting insights you might be able to share with us.
I
So
think that it's, yeah, I mean, it's alignment, uh, the particular angle it's sitting at, and how it lines up very nicely with Jerusalem. And as we pointed out, passes through Versailles.
right,
To what
right.
degree of perfection,
Hmm.
we can talk about that. But I think
Okay.
for the distance, it's quite amazing.
It is
But
truly.
what make what I'm
Yeah.
always thinking about is that path. Is there something special about that path, that point from the Temple Mount over France? And is that arc? Was that special to somebody or a bunch of somebody's? Did it have meaning uh, in the celestial way? That point. And
Yes.
it wasn't really. I mean, we talk about a royal arch, masonry. Was this a royal celestial arch uh, that they were just mapping out on the earth?
As a
Is
way to
something sacred about that?
bless France, bless the new Jerusalem.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. I mean, there definitely has to be more to that story because and that's why I really appreciate the work that you guys do in the finding that connection. Yes, I mean, there are 2 points you take 2 points in the world, and yes, you can find a straight line between them, obviously. But you take that and the way it aligns up and it goes through or very close to just a little bit of a degree off of going through Versailles, which has the
Mhm.
menorah laid out on the ground, and I was fascinated when I found out about that from watching the, episode you guys were on and then having you on and talking about it. I mean, it was just fascinating that somebody went to all that trouble to do something like that, that lines up that way, and so it has to mean something, it truly does. I mean, I just can't like I said, I can't imagine somebody going to all that effort just simply for the fun of it. So, now and where that brings us into the future of, who were they trying to was it something they were doing for sacred reasons, or was it something that, they wanted to leave for a marker for someone coming in the future? I guess we'll have yet to see on that. So, yeah, so it looks like we have oh, there he is. He has finally, made it. There he is. Corian, thank you so much.
So sorry for being
Hello, hello.
fashionably late.
That's
Welcome.
okay.
Apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, we were
Hello.
talking go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hey D'Artagnan, how are you, man?
Yes,
Jockey
Hi
Master.
Gretchen. Hi Jeff.
he's a musketeer, or truly a
Yeah.
musketeer. Yes,
If you have Chris, you only need one.
absolutely.
Ah, yes, indeed.
Oh, thank you.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, man. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So, yeah, so we were discussing a little bit about, Christopher's role in much of what's going on and also, talking a little bit about the Nolan's cross and its significance, in this whole scheme of things. And again, we're not exactly sure just where, and I mentioned this to Christopher and I'll mention it to you. We certainly do not want to delve into an area which you cannot talk about. And if I go there accidentally, I apologize up front and just simply say, "Yeah, you'll find out sooner or later," or something along that
Stay
line.
tuned is
Yeah,
my
stay
favorite
tuned.
phrase.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we know that in season 9, Corian, you were very instrumental with stuff that was going on over in Portugal. And what can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, how did this all come about?
Yeah, is there anything that didn't make it on air that you can speak about and would like to?
There's a ton of stuff that didn't make it to the screen, and
Hmm.
there always is,
Hmm.
Mhm.
as
Mm.
you're, I think, well aware by now.
Yes.
So both in the period running up to the Portugal expedition, but also during the expedition, and I guess I'm at liberty to discuss a little bit of that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and it was awesome. It wasn't something preconceived as people sometimes suggest. Happened quite spontaneously in the moment, because research led us there, and from my part, it started with a map. There was a map which clearly indicated, from my perspective, that we needed to be in northern Portugal.
Mhm.
And when we started looking at that, we found Fonta Arcada, which at first was a bit confusing, because there's actually two places in Portugal that are called Fonta Arcada,
Really?
and both claim that they are the original, Templar dwelling.
Wow.
But the directions pointed to the one that we actually visited,
Mhm.
and we're 100% convinced now that we hit the mark there. And one of the coolest things that we found there wasn't shown on the show, but I remember we were so we were doing tour around the church, and you've seen us on television, looking at the masons marks, and
Yes.
trying to make sense of all the symbols, where normally a mason's mark would serve to indicate what stone has been made by what mason, so they could be paid for the work that they did. Sometimes they would be employed by the Templars, but not always. So it's hard to draw any conclusions, but it was pretty cool to find this one, which features on the 90-foot stone, or the alleged 90-foot stone.
Right.
And then when we got deeper into the church, there was some more really cool features. So there was a number of arches behind the altar, and one of them was triangular in shape. They didn't really feature it on the show, but they did show it, which was pretty cool. And then I started going around the church, and there was a number of square Templar crosses. And then when I walked through the little alleyway between the church and the cemetery, I thought I noticed a Templar cross on the wall, low on the wall. So we got there. Yeah, not that one. I think
okay.
I think I have a photo somewhere. So at some stage when I finish my Fidel Castro monologue and Chris is talking, I'll look at the picture and send it to you so you can share it with your audience. So I thought I spotted a cross, and so kneeled down, and I was looking with Joao and Doug, and I said, "Hey man, this looks like this looks like a sword," and it was, and it turned out to be a repurposed tombstone from inside the church that had been used in the wall of the sacristy when they redid the church in the I think end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century. So that was amazing. And then when we did more, so we had some water and we cleaned it up, and then we saw there was a little X on it as it appeared, and in the end we saw that. So what we initially thought was a huge sword with a Templar cross as a pommel was actually a Templar abacus. And that makes it really interesting. An abacus is a staff with a round feature at the top, wood or iron, with the quapate, so the round Templar cross, which in early times it would be used by the Templar master. So
Scepter.
exactly.
Scepter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's a so incredibly cool thing to find a repurposed Templar tombstone in the wall of the church, and
Now,
that really meant something for us. Yeah.
I was going to say, would that give it more significance? I mean, would they do that because they were trying to preserve something, or would it just simply be okay?
Well, I mean, it could mean you have to be careful not to jump to conclusions. I mean, you get all excited, and there's cameras and people pushing you for statements.
Right.
So But inside the church in Fonta Arcada, originally it was full of tombstones, and they were, in laid out in a really neat pattern, in a sort of grid. But during the refurbishment, they were all cleaned out, so we didn't really know what sort of tombstones had been in there, and there was very little documentation about it. So I have some really old booklets about the church, but didn't say anything about it. But now we know that at least one of those stones was a Templar tombstone, which means that this could have been, a pantheon, so a place where the senior dignitaries of the temple were buried, and that makes it, in my mind, very, very interesting, because Fonta Arcada, the lands at Fonta Arcada were donated to the Templars in 1126, and if you let that sink in for a moment, I mean, the Council of Troyes was 1129, so this is 3 years before the Templars are even, officially a thing, and acknowledged by the world. Before they have their rule, they already have been granted, this attractive piece of land in northern Portugal, and and established some sort of a presence there, which according to accepted history is impossible, because there's supposed to be only 9 of them, strolling around the Temple Mount, protecting thousands of pilgrims. So that, in my mind, that was a major. And I remember we were all sitting there, and it has been filmed, but I guess they couldn't show everything. That was a landmark moment for me, and I think for the whole crew. I think I posted some photos of us standing in front of the church in Fonta Arcada, with the team, with Rick and Alex and Doug and Peter. And if you see these huge smiles on our faces, that photo was taken, just after we had looked at these things, and everybody was full of this, really sense of accomplishment. And hey, we got on a flight from North America, and spend an awful lot of time and effort and money to get here. And look, we found something real. That was really amazing.
Yes.
So what does that tell us? I mean, if that was established before the Templar Knights were truly established, what is that telling us? Is the dates wrong? Is that history wrong, or what do you think?
It tells us that we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. It's they were given prime real estate in Jerusalem on the same grounds that the king occupied, and this is supposedly an untried new small order. So they had to have had a track record of brave deeds, important deeds prior to. And of course, Hugh de Payen, he was a knight prior, and did battle in the Holy Land as well. So he did get around, and this group had already proven themselves before they caught the attention of Bernard de Clairvaux and other notables who were sponsoring them. So that's my short dance on that.
Kind of doubtful that any of them were poor enough to not afford their own horse.
The organization was rich, but of course, when you joined, you had to give your wealth to the order.
Right.
And it was a tradition in families for a couple hundred years to, with honor, supply the Templars with money, goods, their sons. So it was a tradition, and I think it must have been quite an ordeal for these families when the order was disbanded. It must have been quite a shock, and I'm sure they would have done everything they could have done to preserve their memory, because it was their honor at stake. But certainly, I agree with Corian. They preceded they were already involved with the search for holy relics, etc., prior to their official what was that? What was the date, Corian? Why do I have 1119 stuck in my head?
It's foundation.
Yes, yeah.
1119 is foundation of the temple, or
Yes.
is the official founding date in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Donation of Fonta Arcada is 1126. Council of Troyes is 1129. I'm not sure I agree that they were looking for sacred treasure before 1119. I think that's unlikely. But Chris and I are convinced that they not only looked for sacred treasure, but that they struck gold in 1125.
Yeah. Do you think that Bernard de Clairvaux might have, he was a scholar, do you think he might have played a part in asking them to look for sacred treasure, especially since that was the last recorded location of the Ark? Just a thought.
If we've spent a lot of time in the last year and a half, going through all the the original records.
Yeah.
We're compiling that that research at the moment. But generally, I think the facts make it clear that the Knights Templar were founded through intervention of Bernard of Clairvaux, fueled by a movement from the Roman Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
So the founding power in Jerusalem was the Roman Catholic Patriarch, and he had been instructed by Bernard of Clairvaux, and that's also the link to early Templars in Portugal. The first Count of Portugal was a family member of Bernard of Clairvaux.
So what do you think? You talk about the disbanding, and I know this has kind of taken us off on a little bit of a tangent just a moment, but it just occurred to me that after Friday the 13th, 1307, talking about all these families that had really propped up their family members, and being a family member being part of the Knights Templar would have been something to be advertised, or at least something to be proud of. After that happened, I mean, did some of these families then how would they feel about that going into the future? I mean, would they be a little worried that maybe somebody would come after them, or
That had to have been a tough time.
Of course, they were outlawed.
Yeah. So they would have to kind of downplay any involvement they had at that point, or start to worry about themselves at some point, I would think. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. That just occurred to me, about thinking about that after, they were so proud of being part of it. And then all of a sudden now you've got to hide the fact.
Yeah.
Well, you have to imagine it was a huge organization with a lot of people working for them. So it was almost like, an intranational state, roughly, within Europe. Where the persecution mainly applied to the official Templar knights and dignitaries, but there was hundreds, thousands of people working for them who weren't arrested and tortured and everything, and who happily kept serving their farms and businesses even after they'd been passed on to the hospitallers. But yeah, of course, it must have been an enormous shock, when the arrest warrant came. No doubt about it, and so yeah, I think it's only logical to think that many people went into hiding and started to downplay the role that they had once played. So lay low until the storm is over.
Right.
I have a question. Perhaps this is off beam, and it might not be the right time to ask this. And if that's the case, I'm happy to talk about something else. But Corian, you are definitely steeped in Rennes-le-Chateau, etc. But what do you think about Pierre Plantard and his? Of course, I understand that he had been arrested, but he was involved in quite a few secret societies. Do you have any thoughts on him? Or his establishment of a list about the Priory of Sion. Do you have any thoughts about that you want to share?
Sure. I don't believe in the Priory of Sion. I think there's ample evidence that it never existed, at least not in the way that Plantar claimed. I think Pierre Plantar was an intelligent man with a big imagination.
Chris,
Yeah.
you unmuted there for a minute. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Only that for whatever part of that whole mixed mystery is shown to be a hoax or not, that whoever did write that, for example, Le Serpent Rouge or those documents, whoever was the author behind all that did know something and had some inside knowledge, and whether they put it out for disinformation purposes or whatnot, they put in enough keywords to show that they did have some inside knowledge there. And I find that very interesting, and that maybe there is a way to kind of untangle the truth from the fiction there.
Right.
I don't know.
And that's got to be the
Yeah,
toughest part.
and there is a big distinction. Huh? So I agree. We've spent a lot of time looking into this with Chris. That there's for example, Shepherds of Arcadia, and the works around that are definitely, connected to this mystery in one way or another. And I always say this. These were pieces made for private people in the Vatican. Like the Mona Lisa was never intended to be shown to 100,000 people in the Louvre every day. These were privately commissioned works to decorate the walls of high-placed officials in the Vatican. Often in quarters that weren't publicly accessible, and I think they intended to show off. Hey, look at it. There's something that I know. And if you're, some sort of an initiate, if you know a little bit of these rules or the way we operate or rituals, you can recognize these things, and we'll tell you just enough to make you curious. But you will never be able to lay the whole puzzle because I know things that you don't. There's definitely a lot of that going on, much to the enjoyment and frustration of young Chris and myself.
Well, it gives you something to really dig into. We talked a little bit earlier
yes.
about the fact that you spend so much time doing this research, and then you may come across, you've got this all laid out and everything, and then you come across something else, and that there's something else is going, wait a minute, that either enhances what I was researching before, or it changes it completely. Now it goes off in a different direction, and that's got to be completely frustrating, but yet exciting all at the same time.
Absolutely.
So you've been jetting around quite a bit, Corian. So we've those of us who follow you on your Facebook page. I was talking about Christopher's earlier and his family that we get to kind of see, and you've been like all over the place. You're showing us pictures from everywhere. What can you tell us about all this? Is this just pleasure cruising, or is this doing research?
I
Or
do love
both?
what I do. I do love what I do. I'm doing research.
All right.
You went to Neuschwanstein. That looked like it was a for enjoyment, certainly, but that caught my attention.
That is a fab place.
Yeah.
Yeah, many of us envy you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, I'm. Now I have the opportunity and to spend time and go to see all these places. I'm taking the opportunity with both hands. To go there and see all these places that fascinated me for a very long time, and look at them for myself. things always look different when you when you can touch them, when you walk inside them. So I try to do as much of that as I can, and I've always done that. I know even before I got associated with the Curse of Oak Island. So also in my Rennes Chateau days, I made it a habit to see every site for myself, touch every artifact for myself, check every document for myself. And I guess that's what we're doing now. But to some extent, the research that Chris and I have been doing has become so big, and there's so many locations and so many things that you can connect, and there's so many, so much fog around the whole thing. So really try to separate fact from fiction, and that goes best, when you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris is so busy right now, being an entrepreneur and trying to make as many pizzas and good food that he can so that he can raise the money to get out there.
Yeah.
Chris, have you been over recently, or plans? If I can ask that,
Over to Oak
over
Island or to
France?
Portugal?
Yeah, Portugal, France.
Oh, it's been a while. No, I haven't been there recently. I've been tied up in all of this
Yeah.
madness. But yeah, hopefully very soon. I would like to get out. I need a breather. So yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
But in the cooperation that we have and the dynamic between us, it's often Chris who comes up with the ideas, and then working from crazy to practical, and which is an incredibly challenging and exciting thing to work at. And then at some stage, it all comes together. So I really wish we can visit some of these places together soon. Would be really, really cool.
Yeah,
We'd all like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would all like to see
He's
you
being too
two,
kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to start a GoFundMe. We'll start a GoFundMe. Get Chris to Portugal, and
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
to coming back to that, what you had just said, Corian, about the fact that Christopher will take a look at a lot of different information and say, this looks like a good place to check something out here. Is that kind of how that, and then sets you on task, or I mean, is that? I know you guys cooperate quite a bit on all the different information that you have.
I think it's equal parts there. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
He's come up with so many. Yeah, it works the same way. I think both ways. He'll hit me with an idea, and it might trigger something that I hadn't thought about quite a while. And okay, maybe these go together. And it's I think we both come up with equal amount.
How do I get a photo live to you in the podcast, Jeff? Because I'm looking.
You can either send. You can either send it to me through the link that we have on Facebook Messenger, or you can actually bring it up yourself and share it if you want. You can try to do that too.
All right. Okay. Let me try that in a sec.
Yeah. And then once it pops up here, then I can bring it up. You've got people already jumping in there, Chris, and said, "I will donate to the GoFundMe for you."
Now we're talking.
Very
okay,
good.
I think I can share. Let me see if I can share this, Jeff.
Yeah. Just do a share down there in the bottom of your StreamYard and click on share, and it'll ask you what screen you want to share it from or whatever. But I know you've got a lot of interesting new things coming up too, and I hope that and again, but there's also a lot of different things that took place over in Portugal, like you had mentioned earlier, that simply did not make the cut.
Exactly.
Then I'm sure that there's a lot of things there that I don't know if you're allowed, because sometimes when it doesn't make the cut, it doesn't mean that it won't eventually. And sometimes they tell you can't talk about it because it may come out later. I'm hoping you can share a little bit more about like Tomar and some of the other places that you took the team in the Stone Road. Talk about that a little bit.
I'll try to. Let me get this picture to you now.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send it to you, Jeff, because I can't talk and process stuff at the same time.
All right. Yeah, just send it over to the to our link there, and
I've been accused of being masculine and not being able to multitask. There you go.
All right. Oh, okay. There we go. Now let me just bring that up and I'll share it.
How cool is that?
Okay. And then we'll just bring this up for everybody to see here. Oh, it's still downloading. Hold on a second. I'm probably breaking up a little bit now with my bandwidth. I have very poor bandwidth where I am currently.
No, you're fine here. I can see.
Okay.
I can see you're fine in Holland.
All right, here we go. I'm going to bring this up and share it now. There we go.
There you are.
Okay, what are we looking at here? That's
Yeah. So this was in the lower wall of the sacristy. This is a repurposed tombstone. You see the round feature on the right. It's a bit worn, but that is a round Templar cross. And then you see the staff extending all the way to the left. And then at the top, you can see an axe.
Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
History in motion.
And you found this on your own? Or? Oh my goodness.
I did. Yeah. Copyright Corian Mole.
Absolutely. Now, what would be that? Now, you mentioned that you talked about this a staff or a Chris. What did you call it? A scepter?
Abacus.
An
A
abacus?
scepter, yeah, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what would this be? A ceremonial type thing?
Yes, it would be a token of the power of the Grand Master. You know, as a leader of the master. You know, as a leader of the Templars. And if you Google Templar Master or Templar Grand Master, you'll sometimes get a picture of someone holding a staff like this, like today a bishop. You know, holds a staff. Saint Nicholas, who's
Like
holding
a
staff.
crucier without the shepherd crook in it.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of the the bend, the bendy thing at the top, you had this round cross. So it would be a round feature with a
the axe is interesting. So he was a warrior as well.
Yeah.
Or had been. Yeah.
Yeah, or wood chopper.
Yeah, or wood chopper. This would be of somebody of. I mean, and again, help me with this understanding, because I've been told, or I came to the understanding, that if you are a Knight Templar, you don't want to. You've gotten rid of all the lavishness. You've gotten rid of all the things that would point you out. You were supposed to be very. You were supposed to downplay your role in life or in all of this. So,
yeah,
something like this indicate a person that is very high up, and they're going to get that notoriety anyway. How does that?
Well, I mean, there wouldn't be any dates or indication of identity on the stone. Okay. So you would only know, here's a Templar Master or Templar Grand Master, and it wouldn't say who it was.
Yeah.
And given, I think this is indeed, 12th or early 13th century. Given the abacus and the axe, this is a perfect example of the combination of, a warrior, monk, a high dignitary of the temple. I think it's beautiful.
It is.
It's rare to have a name associated with stone grave slab. I did find one, however, in Caldbeck, Cumbria, where it's on record that the Templar knight, his grave slab, they brought it inside and fixed it to the wall to preserve it. And he's got a sword, and very similar to that, only it's floriated. But it is part of the church records that he's buried somewhere in the grounds, Sir Thomas from Temple Sowerby, which is unusual to be able to find that record. We just have lost so many records over the centuries.
Yeah. And they wouldn't record this on the stone unless you were, incredibly, powerful or popular, or had really made your mark, like Gwaldin Pais, the guy who built Tomar. He's been remembered elaborately on his memorials. But for someone here, which must have been very early in the Templar history of Portugal, there's no name. You can only speculate. But it is an indication. I need to be careful what I say, but this is an indication that Fonta Arcada, the place that we visited with the Oak Island team, was indeed the Templar commandery on the lands donated to Queen Theresa in 1126. And if that is true, then this is the tombstone of one of the earliest Templar masses in Portugal, which makes us an incredible find.
Absolutely
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was lovely.
And just to be there, I mean, that's, and just I got to show this again because this is just
That's a
fascinating.
treasure.
It really
real
is.
treasure.
And how many more of things like this might there be around that have just simply been overlooked over the years?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, you could. I mean, we could have walked around it. I mean, it looks very clear on the photo, but we could have walked around the church 15 times and missed it. So your eye needs to needs to be caught by a feature, and then you need to clean it up a little and try to make sense of it. There might have been more, I don't know, but this was pretty amazing.
Yeah, somebody just mentioned, C. Fulton just mentioned that how many things are just flipped the other way and you just never saw it.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that.
That's actually a great remark.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I would say probably quite a couple.
Yeah, somebody's asking, what was the size? Basically, what's the size of this particular stone? Do you remember about how big it was?
In width, I think it must have been like 1 meter 20 and 1 meter 30.
Oh,
I don't know what that is in feet, but it was a big stone.
Maybe about 4 feet, maybe a little more. A meter's about roughly 3 feet. So
yeah, something like that. Yeah, maybe 4 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So what else? What you had some more questions about Portugal, right?
Yeah, there was some other things that you took the team around and saw when you were there. One of the items was the stone road that you were walking, and I know that you've. Well, I got to be careful what I say. How does that relate to what you think they found on Oak Island? I mean, Terry. Terry DeVoe saw the stone road that was on Oak Island, and he talked about that, and he thought it was Portuguese in origin, or at least taken from their knowledge of road building. What do you think? How does that stone road in Portugal tie to the story of Oak Island, in your opinion?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, Terry is a very knowledgeable guy that I hold in very high regard. And the stone road feature on Oak Island is unique in Nova Scotia. So as attested by Laird Niven, there's no second of that anywhere in Nova Scotia. So in that sense, it's fully unique. It is, I think the consensus of the archaeologists that have looked at this is that it's unique and that it looks European. Not something that is in line with the modus operandi of the local natives. Anywhere between let's say 1200 and 1800. So that makes it very interesting. So when we were in Portugal, we tried to find a version of an early European road to see how it would compare. So that's how we ended up at the Roman road near Fatima. I mean, and there's quite a few of these in Portugal and elsewhere in Europe. I think we even have them here in the Netherlands, and they all look sort of the same. And if you've seen one, all the other ones look familiar. In fact, the road leading up to the Templar headquarters in Tomar looks very much like this Roman road. Even down to the they always have these the roads are built a little bit like like a tiled roof. So there was one straight line in the middle, and then they would slope down a little bit to the left and the right, to do away with the water.
Right. Crowning it like they do nowadays, but usually many country roads are crowned. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, apologies for my crappy English there.
Oh, no. Sorry.
So I took the team to see this road, and we had a look at it, and it's an absolutely amazing thing. What you can't see on the show is that it's really steep. I mean, at the steep, it's like 24%, which is and it's straight down a hill. So imagine, you would have a cart with the Ark of the Covenant loaded on top, and you let go of it on the top of the hill, and you find it back, halfway the ocean. So that was quite an interesting. So that really struck me, how steep it was and how straight.
Wow.
This road's been restored by the gentleman you saw on the show, and a team. And at the time of the Roman occupation, it must have looked pristine. I mean, there was like sand and gravel on top of this, which would make it really smooth.
Right.
But he also told us that people would use and reuse this. So these roads were so good that they were still in use 400, 500 years later. However, by that time they had been repaired, 900 times by 500 different people, but they were still the same road. And so what is and it's a very simple way of constructing. You start with big stones on the outside, and then you work your way to the inside with smaller stones. Make sure there's a slope, and then you load gravel on top. That's basically how it's done. And I would never go as far as to claim that this is the blueprint for the road on Oak Island.
Right.
But what you can say, especially the part at the top of this road that was also shown on the show, I think, looks very much like what is on Oak Island, be it that this central line is missing on Oak Island, but maybe they didn't need that, and you could say this was a incredibly well-known way to quickly construct a decent road in Europe in the Middle Ages,
right?
Or in the Middle Ages, long before the Middle Ages, since Roman times.
Right.
And that's all you can say about it.
Yeah. Well, one thing absolutely for sure is that you're not going to go through the trouble of creating a road like this on Oak Island. Again, like I mentioned with the cross, you're not going to go through the trouble to create a road like this on Oak Island unless you needed a good road for a very particular reason. Fishermen coming in aren't going to do this. So you had to have a very good purpose behind putting the manpower into creating something like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real mystery on Oak Island, have no doubt. And this is a feature of it.
Wow, and there was you're going to use for a short time.
Right. Exactly. It must have taken time and effort.
Oh yeah.
I've walked on this road on Oak Island. It's not a small thing. People put thought and effort into this.
Yeah, it truly is. Wow.
Yeah.
One thing that I have a couple of questions from some of the viewers. One of them says, "Have you ever, either of you, have you ever discovered anything recent research that contradicts earlier research?" We kind of touched on this a little bit. When you find something that heads you off in a different direction, but is there anything lately that has contradicted earlier research that you've had?
That's a fantastic question.
That you can talk about today?
I could,
personally, I early on I did some work on the Shakespeare plaque, kind of deciphering, especially the top line of that, and recent findings have not necessarily contradicted it, but had led into a different direction. So it did change my idea of what my original idea of what I thought I was reading there a little bit, and makes much more sense today in a good way, thankfully. So, it happens all the time. I think you got to keep an open mind about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we have progressing insight all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, it's refinement. Sometimes it's back to the drawing board, and we must have been wrong. So I try to plot everything in a very detailed timeline, and especially when Chris and I started working on alignments, we sort of created rules for what goes and what doesn't. So it has to fit. I mean, an alignment. My math teacher said every 2 points will always be on a line.
Yeah.
So for an alignment to be an alignment, the points actually have to point at each other.
Right.
It needs to fit the historical context. There needs to be an intent and purpose there. The technology had to be available. And then if you start looking at these, you find loads of things. But if you start to apply criteria like that, many of them don't make the mark.
Right.
And at the same time, the ones that do fit the filter become even more awesome. Like the giant menorah of Versailles.
I know. That's
It
incredible.
never ceases to to amaze me. How well it's done and how big it is, how long it's been there, and that people haven't spotted, and today still refuses to see it. It's that really amazes me.
Well, the thing about that, and this goes back to what, like season 8, when you guys first talked about that, and you brought that thing up, and I remember watching that show, and then as I was preparing for my recap of that show, I went out and did some of my own research, and I did not realize that. I mean, first of all, that it was even there, and then when I first looked at it from the 20,000 foot level, or whatever you want to call that, looking down at it on the ground, I thought that doesn't look like a menorah until I saw the one that was carved in the prison on the
Dome
wall.
prison.
And yes,
Yeah.
when I saw that, I went. Then it just lit up and goes. That's the. Oh my gosh, they're
Yeah.
like identical.
It is.
Yeah.
We're so used to seeing
absolutely.
the Hanukkah menorah with the curved arms and 9
Yes.
branches.
Right.
Here we have a straight armed 7
Yes.
branch menorah.
Mhm.
It looks completely alien. When anyone thinks of a menorah, it's not what they picture.
Yeah.
But,
And what we found in this process is that not only is Versailles precisely aligned to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, but the menorah at Versailles points at quite a large number of places from the Crusades. And one example that we've also shared online, so we can share that here, is the Convent of Christ in Tomar. And this is something everybody with a PC or a laptop can check this. If you go to Google Earth and you search for the Convento de Cristo, the Convent of Christ in Tomar, Portugal, you put a dot at the center of the corolla, the center of the round church. Then you search for Versailles, Louis XIV's royal palace, and you draw the line there, you will see that the line exactly matches one of the rays of the central candle of the menorah. And we think that's not coincidence. We can see the purpose there. We can see the technology was there. We can see that the historical context was there at the time.
Yep.
And then people, of course, are sometimes skeptical and say, you can make everything point to everything. Well, I've tried to align my house to the menorah at Versailles or Chris's place in South Carolina. I can assure you it doesn't fit. And because if you zoom in to when you're hovering 50 meters above the ground, you can see how precise these alignments are, and beyond, and that's where you start to move into the realm beyond coincidence.
Right.
Mhm.
And that blows my mind that they were able to do that.
I will be moving.
Yeah,
to
I
the
invite
alignment.
everybody to do this. Yeah, please do. Please do.
Yeah. It's really hard to figure out how they were able to do that back then. The technology that they had isn't like, well, they couldn't jump on Google Earth and have a look at it. Hey, let's put something here because it like how they figured that out is just blows my mind. It's beyond me. I really have no idea.
I'm going to send you another photo now,
Okay.
Jeff. If I can master the technology here on my laptop.
I know
Here we go.
some people have heard this story, but I'm going to ask this one too. And while I'm getting that, and then I'll let you guys kind of talk about this while I'm pulling this picture up. But one of the questions that was asked was, and this is for people who may not have seen the first show that we did when you guys had talked about this, but it said, I would love to know how they met and how they discovered the information on the Poussin paintings. Now, how did you guys originally meet? You happen
Well,
to be
it was,
down in? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I apologize.
uh, well, uh, we met on Oak Island. That was our first meeting. Um, I had sent in a theory that they apparently liked enough to fly me up there and talk about. And they said, hey, there's this other researcher, and a lot of his ideas overlap with yours. And would you mind maybe putting your heads together and see what you both come up with? I said, it sounds great to me. So I got up there and sort of did my war room and met Corian. Obviously, a great guy, and he had great ideas. And a lot of our research did overlap. So the show really brought us together, and they asked us to be research partners on a lot of this stuff. And luckily, that really panned out, worked out really well. Gained a research partner and a friend, and it's been going strong ever since. So.
Absolutely. And for my the other side of the story is they had been, more than one people had submitted theories involving the work of Nicolas Poussin. As Gretchen knows, his work features heavily in the mystery of Rennes Chateau, and I had done quite some publications about that. So I was approached by a research assistant of Prometheus, and this is 2019, 2018, season 7. And she asked me, could you tell us if there's any possible link between Poussin and Oak Island? So I said there isn't one. So she said, "Can you have a second look and see what you can find? Look really closely, and even if it's completely ridiculous, tell us." And so that's when I came up with, you have the At in Arcadia Ego painting. That phrase is known to be an anagram. You could make Gita Neo Arcadia, go to New Arcadia, and then the pendant painting of Midas washing in the river Pactolus would put you at the Gold River. And if you would combine New Arcadia and the Gold River, that would put you within 2 or 3 miles of Oak Island. And then they loved that, and I remember did some sort of an audition on the Friday night, and 2 hours later I had a ticket, and on Sunday I landed on Oak Island. I think I met Chris on Monday. That was a bit of a roller coaster, and yeah, we got along really well. And then Rick specifically asked us to, please collaborate. No one's going to solve this on his own or on her own, and couldn't agree more. And that's when we hit it off, and I think every researcher, I think in the end believes he's right. Let's not get. I don't want to get cocky here, but I think we've developed a what I think is a realistic timeline which completely matches all the known dates on the island, and it matches the full historical context, and we've substantiated this with a enormous amount of original documents and findings that we've constructed. And Poussin, much to my amazement, is still very much at the heart of what we do. And it's funny because I think if you look at us as a research duo, I'm a bit more about history. I'm a bit more vocal. You might have noticed Chris is a bit more, represent the esoteric side. He has much deeper knowledge than me, and he's a much more patient guy. And I really remember the first time I looked at his theory and I thought, oh man, these constellations, sure. And then we started talking to each other, and the more I went into it, and I really started to see the merit and how it overlapped and how much sense it made, and that's really been, and from that moment on, I think that we've been very much complementary, and bringing something to the table that the other doesn't have,
Right.
In terms of knowledge or angle, or so. I'll be working on one subject and I'll be deep into that, and then Chris will. I'll ask Chris a question, and he'll come back with something completely different, which I'm really not interested in, but really tickles my imagination, and I'm sure I do the same with him. And which has led to our let's call it a timeline. Yeah.
That's what's really interesting too to me, because so often you get, and that, and I understand how this goes, but talking with so many different researchers and authors, they get, like you said, you're convinced that you're right, and you might be, but you're convinced that your information is correct and you're heading down this particular path, and you don't really want to share that with anyone else. How many times have we heard that story?
I mean,
So a few. So for you guys to work together and to be able to share that, and then even Gretchen has some awesome information. It seems like what Rick was saying. Can you guys work together and see if you could come up with something, some better answers on this? I think that's a great idea. So you take all these minds, all you guys have these wonderful research minds, and like you said, you come at it from different angles. That's, in my opinion, that's the way to solve the story.
It is, and obviously I've had a lot of time to discuss with the team while for example while we're in Portugal, and I think as you've seen on one of the drilling down episodes, they're taking research to the next level.
Yep.
And that's exciting. That's really exciting.
It is very exciting. So you sent a picture over, and I'm going to show that one real quick here.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us, talk about this a little bit.
Well, Portugal.
Is that a canopy oak?
If you look at old pictures of Oak Island, you will immediately recognize this silhouette.
That's what I did.
I mean, look for these photos, blow them up, blend them together, and you'll see that they look identical.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, one of the things that we were really tasked with to do in Portugal was find links to North America.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during our visit to Sintra that I spotted these.
Wow.
And I hadn't seen them at first, but I made a number of photos, and we were having lunch after the shoot, and I was going through through my shots and spotted these. And so this is a photo taken in Portugal, in Sintra. So this is where we visited the initiation well, which looks like a much more advanced template for what we think the money pit is, and where we have this Masonic wonderland built by a Portuguese Brazilian industrial in the early 20th century. And it was amazing. And then if you start looking further around Portugal, and I visited Portugal a number of times since, you see these everywhere. You see these everywhere, and not only in Portugal. You'll see them in Rome. You see them in some parts of France, but especially in Portugal, you see these everywhere.
Wow. That's fascinating. And that's the thing you do. As soon as you sent me that picture, and I looked at it, and I was like, "That's the canopy. That's the." And Linda just reminded me. She said these trees have canopy. Oak trees have canopies. That is not the kind of oak tree. It's just a description. So I was calling it a canopy oak. It's not a canopy oak. That's what you description behind what it looks like. Thank you, Linda, for that, for correcting me on that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh,
And I'm not claiming these are the trees,
but sure
but
looks like
they
it.
they sure look like them. These are not oaks.
Oh,
Yeah, so
really?
it gets more intriguing there. But they grow in Portugal,
Wow.
and people used to take seeds on the boat, to make bread or plant new parts for the ship when they would arrive in a new place, because they use these sort of trees to make masts for the
Right.
boats.
Ah,
So who knows?
yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep. Okay, so I tell you what, I didn't want to run really, really long with today's show, but I tell you, before we let you go, I have to talk a little bit. You mentioned it just a moment ago, Corian, and I have to talk just a little bit about
Yeah,
this particular place right
Yeah.
here. When I saw this on the episode, I was absolutely blown away by it. And just tell us a little bit from you guys in your research into this and finding this place. What do you give us your take on this? I guess is where I'm going.
it's not old. We
It's
think
not old.
No.
Okay.
it's not old.
Okay.
It's not old. However,
Was this part of what that guy built? That guy built in more
yes,
modern times? Okay.
yeah. So Quinta de Regalera is basically someone's garden, and
Okay.
this someone was very, very rich, and he created this. It's a bit of a pompous, gaudy style mansion.
Yep.
And he made, in his garden, he created not only this well, but there's another well there too, and some other absolutely amazing Masonic stone features. They are enormous. There's many of them. And Quinta de Regalera lies on Templar land.
Okay.
So this is part, the part of Portugal that was donated to the Templars when they were driving out the Moors in the Reconquista. There is actually tunnels in the ground. There's a known tunnel. I mean, there's a Moorish castle which also became a Templar castle very close by. There's a known tunnel which starts at that castle and ends, in the basement of one of the espresso bars in the village. And there's folklore which says that there's been, some sort of druid thing going on, ritual thing going on in these woods, since forever. And there is a possibility that the initiation well in Sintra, is based on an earlier feature, but I mean, it's not recorded. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know. This, like the Mona Lisa and Shepherds of Arcadia, this was not meant to be seen by the general public. This was in someone's garden. This was used for Masonic initiation rituals in a private setting, in a secluded setting. And it's pretty awesome. This would happen at night. So you would walk in through this megalithic feature. You would be at the top of the stairs, 9 levels, 14 feet wide, 90 feet deep, a bit like the dimensions we recognize from the money pit. You would be stripped naked, and you would walk down into the dark, landing on this Templar cross at the bottom. And then you would have to find your way out, which was your initiation. And there were several choices you would have to make. There's a labyrinth underground, and I've walked there. It's fabulous. It's chilling. It's eerie. It's everything at the same time. Such an impressive place. So much impact. And the whole purpose of the exercise would have to be for you to find the light. So first of all, you would have to fight yourself, because you would be there, naked, cold, pitch dark, and you would have to make sure your eyes got used to the dark, and then you would have to make the choice: where does it look lighter, and where do I set my next step?
Right.
In the process, you would come to another well, which is called the unfinished well. It's not as deep and much rougher, but it's also an awfully cool feature. And then at the very end, if you would make all the right corners, you would end up, in a beautiful garden with water features and with birds and everything, and you would come out there, reborn. So I've no doubt you would be really, really scared there underground. You would be, the ecstatic to be out again. That whole experience has been, sculpted into the initiation well at Quinta de Regalera, and around it you have chapels with the weirdest and most fascinating iconography, the most stained glass windows that can keep you occupied for a week in terms of research and thinking, what did people intend to convey here? There's like a deer jumping off a cliff over a boat. That's that kind of stuff. And then inside the house you have all the kings of Portugal in their Order of Christ regalia, and that's where the connection back to the Order of Christ and back to the preceding Order of the Knights Templar is really made. And it's a profound experience. It's a profound experience. And so we went down the well, with production lighting, and and I remember one of the cameramen had to walk into the well backwards, which was a bit of an experience because it is really deep. So if you have any sort of vertigo, you're in for a treat. But the experience, the payoff is at the end, and it's life changing. Even if you've been there in broad daylight, well prepared. I'd seen the pictures before I was there. I had visited the place before we went in, so I'd been scouting there before we went on the trip. And still, to be there, with these people that became my friends in this process, and then to come out at the other end, that was all tears and hugging, and it was like the end of a Barbie movie. I loved it.
Yep. And that was the thing. During the show, I think they left the impression that the stuff above ground was all the guy built all that, and for whatever purposes he had for building it like that. But I was under the impression that this was old, so it was not.
No.
It was basically built. Okay.
I had hoped it was, but it isn't. It's the same age as the rest of the features.
That's interesting to note. Yeah.
But it's tradition. It's following on a tradition of thought, and expressed in an inverted tower. It feels like I said on the show, it feels not even inspired. It feels instructed by something old and something bigger than us. It really has that effect. I see some questions there. I mean, this is publicly accessible. I mean, Quinta de Regalera is one of the most popular tourist attractions in Portugal. It's a well-known place. It's beautiful. It's well laid out, and it's
I would love to see
relatively easily accessible. And the town of Sintra too is an incredible site. I think even Madonna has a house there. It's a very, very, very cool place. So if you ever visit Portugal and you're around Lisbon, it's half an hour drive. Don't skip this. It's a life-changing experience.
Wow. Yeah, I keep looking over because I have the picture up still. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, even if it is a new feature, like you're saying, it just goes to show that these ancient traditions are still being carried forward.
Yep.
Somebody's still practicing this.
Yep. I would love to see that. Maybe one day I'll get over there. So, and guys, I really appreciate your coming on again today. I know that you guys have had together. Of course, we've seen Corian on the show more often. Of course, with the whole thing going on over in Portugal. Yeah, vacation place for Jeff. Yes, it truly is, Judy. Yeah, that's for sure. And I really do appreciate that. One question that Alessandra Nadavari. Now, you guys know Alessandra. She co-hosted last time that we had you on, and she threw out the question: have you found anything else out lately that has changed? I was going to bring her. I better bring it up before I really blow it. I'd like to know how their theory has evolved over time. Do they look at Oak Island differently now compared to a couple of years ago? That's a wide open one, right? And you may not be able to comment.
Oh, and we can sure comment.
Okay. What do you think?
You want to have a stab, Chris?
I think, in addition to the theory, some things have remained the same. Might be in addition to the background players that we did not see coming before.
Okay.
That's yeah. Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned, indeed.
Yeah. I mean, when I started on this adventure at the start of season 7, I was very, very skeptical. And not so much anymore. There's a real mystery here. And it's deeply, deeply connected with early European history. There's a real mystery of discovery. Sorry, could you hear that, Jeff?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. So it's deeply rooted also in European history and the age of discovery. And the mystery is still there today. And I think that's one of the biggest revelations for me from the last months, is that some or even much of this continues into today. It's still worth looking on Oak Island. I still not believe. I think there's something there.
Good. Yeah.
And that's not something I've always been convinced of for the last couple of years. But while Chris and I dare say we're about to conclude. What is it, Chris? Like 2.5 years of research. And the story and the conclusion, it's breathtaking.
Wow.
It's breathtaking. And it's not about something you've heard on TV. It's not about something you've heard on all these shows. It's not this thing that everybody's been repeating. It's something much more beautiful and much more delicate, and that couldn't phrase it any more or any better than Chris said. We didn't really see this coming, both in terms of who has shown to be behind all this, and what this was about, and where it all went down. It's torture to sit on top of this stuff and not being able to share it.
I can only imagine. I really can. I mean, that's one of the things that a researcher is all about, right? To gather your research, do your vetting, get everything together, and present it. And you kind of have, just not here. And now you have to sit on it and wait. I can only imagine how that feels.
Yeah. The way-ding is the hardest part.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You're a good singer. I know you can.
I think Mr. Petty said that. Yeah.
Wow. I tell you what, Gretchen, what do you think? I mean, this. I guess stay tuned is the word we're getting.
We have to wait, and of course they can't reveal anything until they're ready, until Oak Island is ready. And Corian, I asked Christopher before you came on, do we have a book that we can all look forward to? Because you two have done so much work, and a lot of it has not made it onto the TV screen. And it's still, I would find it incredibly important to understand the things that you have found there, like the stone grave slab. That's important. And I appreciated learning about that today. So, do you have any plans to write a book?
I'm looking forward to see Chris very soon.
Okay.
That's one thing.
Yep.
And yeah, wouldn't it be fab to have, a long text with all the delicious details?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We're not going to get those from the show. We're not going to get them. It's not going to happen. It never does.
Yeah, we want to drill down on what you know.
Yes,
well, so at some stage we're going to record this one way or another, and of course we record what we find, because if only to keep track of everything. So of course we write stuff down. In terms of we have to wait, what you have to realize is there's a big difference between Oak Island the hunt and Oak Island the show.
Yes.
So Oak Island the hunt is some sort of a continuous thing involving many of the people you see on the show, and all sorts of research, not only Chris and myself, but all the familiar faces you see on the Facebook groups. And the show chops that up, sometimes wonderfully, sometimes less so, into something that has a tension arc, fit for 80 million global viewers. Chris and I are about to hunt, and I can do without all the. I love talking to you, and I love being on television, and but the fallout, not so much. So it's yeah. So the Oak Island also does something to your life and to your reputation and all these sort of things. So I've more and more I'm concentrating on the hunt.
You have to
and recording the what we think is what actually went down.
Great.
I'll tell you what, I would love to be part of that. As far as being able to, when you're ready and you can, put the word out and do this, talk about this recording or whatever. I would love to be able to help announce that to the world with you guys. I think that would be something that's going to be it's going to be fantastic, because like Rick says, I want to know the who, what, why, where, and when. And does it change American history, North American history? How does it affect us in changing of the history, or getting down to the nitty gritty of the history?
It won't change history. It will explain.
There you go. Perfect. History. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
It will explain parts of North American history you've never thought about.
See, I can't wait. Oh my gosh! Somebody just said, I put it up on the screen real quick. Somebody said that the History Channel could not have come up with a better teaser than we just did right here. So I tell you what, stay tuned, folks, because this is going to be a good one. I can't wait.
I don't know about a book, but a musical is in the works.
A musical.
We're
several dance numbers.
Chris and I like a good whiskey. Yeah.
Can I do backup singing?
Exactly.
I can hold the camera. That's all I'm good for. I don't know.
Wait till you see the chorus line at the end. Oh, that's going to be great.
Yeah. Any idea who could do the catering there, Chris?
There you go.
No, I might know a guy.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, this has been an absolutely wonderful, almost a couple hours. I told Chris that I was not going to let it go 2 hours, and here I almost did. But it was just too good. There was just too much good information here to cut it short. And I wanted to share that with everyone as much as we could here today. So I tell you, I am so intrigued about the future of not only the show, but to find out what you guys have come up with. I think this is fascinating. I really can't wait now. I'm actually sitting on the edge of my seat wanting to know now what's going to happen, and we got to wait, unfortunately, a little bit longer. So Thank you guys so much for just making my life just miserable now because I can't wait. I gotta.
I want to see you try and drive your camper across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes, I know, right? I thought if I could find a boat big enough, to take the whole
a few
thing.
pontoons. You can do it.
Exactly.
Or hired all. Come on.
Man, oh man. But I tell you what, I am going to be heading down towards to the curse of, what'd you call it? The curse of what again?
Hilton Head Island.
Hilton Head Island, yes, so that I can come down there and get some of that fantastic pizza by Jacques de Mozzarella.
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah.
So if you're ever down in South Carolina in that Hilton Head area, you've got to stop by Crave Station. And yep, there it is right there. Crave Station. You got to stop by Crave Station and try out some of their wares. I tell you, I can't wait. And Jan Anderson, she's one of the moderators of our group. She has tried twice now to come down there and see you.
There is a curse here, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
She can't get within 20 miles of it.
Oh my goodness.
I've just thought of Jack Campbell and thought it would be nice to say hello to him. He's usually on, but has been off these last months and rehabilitating now. So hopefully he'll be back on as your co-host soon, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, Jack has had a couple medical issues, and he is currently on the mend. And soon, hopefully, he'll be home again and be his good self. And we can't wait to have him back on the show. So Godspeed, Jack. Our prayers are still with you. And thank you, Gretchen, for bringing that up. I appreciate that very much. We miss Jack a lot. And we get to talk to him occasionally, but we want him back on the show. So can't wait for that to happen. Gretchen, any final parting thoughts here before we go?
Just thank you. It was wonderful to be able to speak to you both and hear a bit more of your adventures. And I'm sure that if we all had the energy, we could sit here for 6 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
But thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Gretchen.
Thank you, Corian.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for your time.
Much appreciated.
All right, folks, thank you very much for watching here today. And this has been a fascinating couple of hours. We really appreciate Corian and Christopher coming on. And we can't wait now to find out exactly what all they have not been able to tell us today on the show. So stay tuned for sure. And then when that has all been out, we're going to have them back so they can dive into it a little deeper and give us more detail. So stay tuned for that as well. But thank you, folks, for watching here today. I'm going to be off for the next week. I'm going to be traveling. We're heading out west in the mobile unit, heading west, and we're going to have a whole new array to talk about then. So I won't have much happening over the course of the next week. But again, thank you for watching today. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please do so and give us a thumbs up if you like our content. It does help us out a lot. We appreciate that very much. And if you'd like to help the show in any way, we have our Patreon channel. It's patreon.com. And of course, JFree906 there as well. Thank you once again, Corian and Christopher and Gretchen, for sitting in the co-host chair today. Really appreciate you very much. Folks, have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you next time right here on The Curse of Oak Island and beyond the live stream. Have a good day.
Take care,
everyone.